Hi, I'm JQ. In my last video, I took you to see what life is like in the complex, where I bought my apartment back in 2019. It's a super mega complex in China, the size of 365 soccer fields. As comfortable as it is to live here. If you saw my previous videos, you may know an old classmate scammed me into buying it. So today, I want to show you what the phase where I bought my apartment actually looks like inside. Also, let's take a look at the supermarket chain right by the complex entrance. It's the best-known local brand in Huizhou City. And while we're at it, I'll tell you the full story of how I got scammed into buying this place. My apartment's in one of the phases here. This is what it looks like outside the entrance. And here's the entrance. Back when I bought it in 2019, this phase was still under development. Since I bought it, I've only been here twice. I've heard that the owner of this well-known development company has been really into studying fengshui in recent years. So the phases developed over the past several years all feature a new Chinese design that incorporates fengshui. I haven't registered my face yet, so I probably can't get into this phase using facial recognition.
哎，你好，我那个8栋的业主，我还没办那个。啊？是，对。好，谢谢。
您没有授权。
好，谢谢。
She asked me if I was filming a video. She probably thought I was one of those homeowners who make videos introducing their places, hoping to sell quickly. The apartments here have dropped to half of what they were bought for. And it's still dropping. This phase has 15 apartment buildings in total. As you can see, most of the buildings show little sign of anyone living in them. That's because the phases developed between 2018 and 2021 were driven up to wildly inflated prices. Almost twice as much as the surrounding neighborhoods. Most of the people who bought here aren't locals. They bought it as an investment. So the locals who know what's going on call these investors 韭菜. And the apartments here? They call them 韭菜 apartments. In Chinese internet slang, 韭菜 literally means garlic chives. When people call someone 韭菜, it means that person is an easy target, someone who enters a rigged game and gets exploited over and over. Just like chives are cut down and then grow back very quickly, only to be cut again. Those who've watched my previous videos probably already know I'm one of those 韭菜. It's just that the person who scammed me was my most trusted old classmate. To be honest, if you're buying this place to live in, it really is comfortable. But that wasn't my goal back then. I was young back then. After 8 years of extreme hard work, sacrificing my health along the way, I ended up with several chronic conditions, but I also saved nearly 3 million yuan. About 440,000 US dollars. Since 2019 was the peak of my career, I decided to put most of my savings into a relatively stable asset, something I could fall back on. Actually, back in 2017, I have already done a lot of research and decided to save up enough to buy a property in Manchester in the UK. So by 2019, I couldn't wait. I contacted the developers and prepared to buy a place with full payment, as it was complicated to get a mortgage as a foreigner. At the time, I shared this plan with an old classmate of mine. 20 years ago, we shared the same 4-person dorm in university, and we were really close. After university, we lost touch, until 2016, when I moved to Shenzhen to try my luck, and we crossed paths again. He's a Shenzhen local, from a wealthy family with a lot of connections. When I first arrived in Shenzhen, he introduced me to so many things I didn't understand. I really trusted him. First, he shot down my plan to buy in the UK. He said the UK is in decline. It's just coasting on its past glory, and its economy will only slow down further. Buying in the UK will cost you, he said. Look how fast China is growing. Why go so far to invest? Then he said, I'll tell you quietly. I have inside information from people in high places. Some parts of Huizhou are going to be absorbed into Shenzhen. When that happens, property prices there will multiply. I've already found a place there, and I'm planning to buy. I'll take you to see it, and make sure you don't tell others. To be honest, I still wanted to stick with my plan, to buy in the UK, but I figured there was no harm in going to take a look with him. So he took me and his other friend, and drove us from Shenzhen to Huizhou, to look at apartments. But, after everything he said on that day, my mindset shifted that very day. I'll tell you later what happened that day, and what changed my mind. For now, back to this apartment. As you can see, it's a 136 square meter, roughly 1,463 square feet, 4-bedroom apartment. Back then, the price was close to 18,000 yuan per square meter. So, the total price came to about 2,400,000 yuan, approximately 330,000 US dollars. However, in China, residential apartments have a shared common area of over 20%. So, the actual usable floor area is probably around 109 square meters, about 1,173 square feet. But both the property price and the renovation cost go by the area on the property deed, not the actual floor area. I never planned to leave Shenzhen and come live here, so I never renovated it. And even if I did renovate it and rent it out, I'd only get about 2,500 yuan a month, around 364 US dollars. So there was really no point in renovating. Now that I can no longer afford the cost of living in Shenzhen, and have chosen to come and stay in Huizhou, I can't even afford the renovation costs anymore. Sometimes it feels like a dream, unreal. In just a few short years, life can hold such sweeping highs and such crushing lows. See, back in October 2019, I had already talked with a sales representative from a UK developer based in China. We were almost at the point of closing the deal. We had picked out an apartment and calculated the holding costs and the rental yield. I was planning to fly to the UK before Christmas. Then my old classmate brought me here to see this apartment in November 2019. In the month that followed, every time we met, he would emphasize that buying a property in the UK would be a wrong decision. It wasn't until years later that I found out from another friend of his, who was also tricked by him, that among the people they both knew, 4 of them had been brought here by my old classmate to buy apartments. He must have made at least 120,000 yuan in commission, about 18,000 US dollars. Looking back, I realized that my old classmate had teamed up with the property salesperson to trick me into paying for the apartment more hastily. But honestly, what really made me decide to buy this place was still what my old classmate said on the day he brought me here to see it. I was just about to leave this phase and see what I found. I guess, as long as you know how to notice the little things, life really is full of small surprises to lift you up.
好了，拜拜了，拜拜了。
Now I'm back at the shopping mall by the complex entrance. Since I'm here anyway, I'll just get today's groceries at the supermarket here. Never bought anything here before, but I've heard it's the biggest and best-known local chain in Huizhou. Let's check it out. Claw machines are all over the place in China. Are they popular where you're from too? People say if there's one local supermarket in Huizhou that can go up against Walmart, this is it. Enjoy. There is a wide selection of baked products here. This is the meat section. Beef is definitely not cheap in China. In many big supermarkets here, the beef is imported from the US or Australia. Since this is a local Guangdong brand supermarket, a large portion of its beef is the famous Chaoshan beef from Guangdong. Let me get some pork. This one looks good. The egg prices here make sense. The veggies here are definitely more expensive than the ones at the market downstairs from the apartment I rent. The fruit here seems more expensive too. In China, people are very picky about seafood and freshwater catches. They'll only buy them live. So not just at markets. Many Chinese supermarkets also sell live seafood and freshwater fish. My God, this is huge.
亲爱的顾客，宠物禁止带入卖场，请。
你不怕它咬？它咬一口就手就没了。
Well, I tried to scare him off, but it didn't work. This supermarket also has a lot of different kinds of ready-to-eat food. China has way too many drink brands. A lot of them I've never even heard of. The ones that sell best are still the familiar names. The snack section here is also pretty big. Which one should I choose? Let's go to the checkout.
Eh, 这个好像忘了打架了。土豆。这不需要打架是吧？这个不是呀，这个扫码就好了。那这个也是扫码。好，我就进来吧。
At the market downstairs from my rented apartment, I always have to weigh potatoes before checking out. I didn't know here they could just recognize them automatically. The staff member helped me all the way through the self-checkout. I guess it wasn't really self-checkout for me, more like staff checkout. When I came out, it was already dark. It was a late dinner for all of us. That complex was so huge, just walking around, and half an hour disappears.
Wait, 等一下，等一下。等一下。
Quantou is 7 years old now. His back leg condition has gotten a bit worse. Since last year, he started taking glucosamine.
好吃 Max 吃
It has always been like this. One eats like he's starving to death. The other acts like I'm trying to poison him. Alright, I'm going to make myself some pork rib and potato stew. While I cook, let's go back to the apartment story. That day, my old classmate brought us to Huizhou to see this apartment. I had never been to this city before, so everything I knew about this place came from him. He said, as an investment, this area of Huizhou is going to be merged into Shenzhen. They're going to build a subway line connecting it to downtown Shenzhen. When that happens, property prices here will at least double. I've already picked out a villa here. I'm going to buy it. You, on the other hand, if you buy a place in the UK, you have to pay in full. You'd sink all your money into it. Here, you only need to put down a down payment. You'll still have over $1 million left over. You can use that for business or other investments. We can start a business together. Then we can retire at 50, leave that crowded city of Shenzhen, and come live here together. Look, there are mountains, rivers, and the sea. It's perfect for a relaxed, happy retirement together. And when you start a family, the two families can go on trips together. How great would that be? To be honest, it was those last two sentences that really got to me. I don't know if you've ever felt the same way. After leaving school, it's hard to find real friends. But I felt like the bond I had with him from sharing a dorm in university had never changed. That's rare. I really wanted to keep and continue that friendship. Those words made me imagine so many beautiful future scenes. Around then, another friend he had brought along also said he'd buy a villa here and join our retirement life. Of course, I had been planning to buy a place in the UK for 2 years. So after I got back to Shenzhen, I still hesitated for a bit. But almost every time we met, he kept urging me not to buy the UK property. A few weeks later, the salesperson he had introduced to me rushed to say that there were only 4 apartments left in this phase. If I didn't buy soon, I'd miss the chance. He said my classmate was in no hurry, since he was buying a villa, and villas move slowly. So I called my old classmate and asked if he had actually decided to buy. He said he'd already paid the deposit. He was just waiting for the money in his wealth management account to mature, so he could use it for the down payment. He told me to pick a good unit quickly. Otherwise, they'd sell out immediately. So in that panic, I rushed and bought the apartment. Since I only paid a down payment, I still had nearly 2 million yuan in savings left. What happened after that? Those of you who've watched my previous videos already know. After my career collapsed in 2020, I poured most of that money into the so-called business with this old classmate. And the outcome is what you see now. Living a life of debt, trying to get by. The thing is, I actually found out he didn't buy the villa there before I put my money into the business with him. But he said the money from his wealth management account came out too late, and the villa he wanted had already been bought by someone else. So he said he had no choice. And I actually believed him. It wasn't until after we started doing business together, when people he knew began telling me things about him, and we worked very closely as a team, that I really understood what kind of person he was. Oh, and for the cooking, when you get to this step, make sure you add hot boiled water. That's what keeps the ribs tender and bouncy. If you pour cold water in and stew them with that, the texture will turn out tough and hard. It's kind of like life. There are so many little things, and one small step you overlook, something that seems unimportant, can end up making all the difference in the result. Some people asked me if I hate my old classmate. I hated him back then, but after all these years, I don't think I hate him anymore. We could never be friends again, that's for sure. But if I ran into him someday, I'd probably just smile and say, "Hey, how's things going? You know, you really didn't have to do that to me." Honestly, I don't believe he's a bad person at heart. It's just, he grew up in a wealthy family with a very strict father. His dad is the sales director of one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in China. Extremely successful. He gave my classmate a lot of money to start businesses. But my classmate just didn't have the ability or the luck. He kept failing, losing everything. He was so desperate to prove himself in front of his father. That's why he did what he did. What's done is done. All I can do now is try my best to deal with it and live my life. Thank you all for caring about me. I saw your suggestions about selling the apartment. The truth is, I already talked to an agent a few months ago. First of all, the price has dropped to almost half of what I paid for it. And on top of that, I'd still have to pay a big agent fee. So even if I manage to sell it, it's still far from enough to clear my bank loan. Also, the bank's rule is that I have to pay off the mortgage before I can sell the property. There's no way I can do that. So I guess I've fallen into this kind of deadlock. No way out that I can see. The only thing I can do is take on as much work as I can each month and try to earn a little more. That's also one of the reasons I can't update YouTube as often as I'd like. Dinner's ready. I've got some left in the pot, so I can make a rib and potato noodle soup for lunch tomorrow. Someone asked me, with all the struggles you're facing, why do you still buy street food? How do I put it? Take this dinner for example. I could split the $4.23 worth of ribs into 3 meals, $1.40 each. But that doesn't mean I have to cut it out completely. I still exercise. I still go out and look around. It's not like I have to stay home every day doing nothing but working and crying. The harder life gets, the more you have to learn to find joy in the small things. Your mental and physical health, that's what will keep you going. That's your fuel. We have to allow ourselves to fall apart sometimes, but then quickly pull ourselves together and embrace the rainbow after the storm. What if the rainbow doesn't show up? Then you just paint one yourself. I hope all of us can find something every day that brings us a little bit of happiness. I'm JQ. Hope to see you soon.